Terminator Genisys is another Terminator sequel that does not quite live up to the first two films. However, it is better than Terminator 3 and Terminator Salvation. The film stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, Emilia Clarke, Jason Clarke, Courtney, and is directed by Alan Taylor. First of all, I have to say, all the actors in this film turn in a really solid performance. Also, anytime any of the actors in this film have to share screen time, they all have really good chemistry, at least among the leads. When, let's say, for example, Courtney and Emilia Clarke, who respectively play Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor, have to share screen time in this film, it is really well done, and you can tell that these characters are sort of interacting with each other and the actors are having fun while playing off each other. And that is a really good strength of the film. This film does something that I have not seen in a while in the Terminator franchise. It really raises the stakes. Terminator 3 really tried to raise the stakes with a new Terminator, but it failed because this Terminator did not match the menacing presence of the T-1000 from Terminator 2. And it didn't seem to be an upgrade from that. It seemed to be, if anything, a downgrade from the T-1000. The main threat from this film is honestly quite imposing. While I don't think that it matches the T-1000 in pure terror levels or menacing factor, I do think that this Terminator seems to be an upgrade, if it really is a Terminator. The other sequels after Terminator 2 failed in raising the stakes, but this film seems to manage to make the story seem bigger and more important than ever before. Which is incredible, because Terminator 2 had an extremely high stakes. The performance of Jason Clarke as John Connor in this film is very chilling. While it's not as menacing as Robert Patrick from Terminator 2, it did send shivers down my spine. This film had really great callbacks to the first two films. This film is a sort of reboot/sequel to the first two Terminator films, and at the beginning of the film it does a really good job of incorporating ideas and even characters and elements of the first two films into the first half of this film. Those were mainly the positives of the film. However, there are quite a few negatives. This film did have some really great fight scenes and really awesome set pieces. However, some of these fight scenes and set pieces were ruined by some awful effects, which is really weird because some of the effects in this film were amazing. There's a really interesting fight at the beginning of the film where two Terminators fight. At some points this looks really impressive, but other times it looks absolutely terrible, especially when any of the Terminators are throwing each other. It just feels a bit off. As I said, some of the effects in this film are really amazing, but then once you get a really amazing effect, it's sort of smashed together with a really awful effect, so it sort of jars you, sort of removes you from getting totally immersed into the film. The film's biggest weakness, however, I think, is the overall plot. And I'm not saying that the plot was bad. As I said, it manages to raise the stakes higher than it's ever been before, and overall it's quite a good plot. However, at some points, some parts of the film feel really forced, feel really convoluted, and at times even feel rushed. Some things in the film are only brought up to move the story along artificially. They sort of have never been mentioned before and are only brought quickly to sort of force the film along. And it feels like they had an idea for an overall plot but didn't know quite how to connect it completely. This only was a problem with some parts of the film, but as I said, some parts feel really forced, really convoluted, and feel really rushed, which is a shame because I enjoyed the plot overall. But like the fight scenes, there are some parts of it that sort of don't match and sort of are jarring and take you out of the film as an experience. Like the plot, there are some characters that feel really forced and convoluted. There are some characters that just come into the film to move the plot artificially forward and then are never mentioned again and never used. One character, played by J.K. Simmons, seems to have a really important role in the film, but then once he's served his purpose in the plot, he's never mentioned again and is never used. Which seems a bit weird because he really does feel like he's supposed to be important. And a final problem with this film is that its overall mood is that it didn't have one. The first film was a really dark, depressing, sort of noir, almost horror movie, and it had that same mood throughout the entire film. The second one had a more action-focused and, while serious, it also had lots of fun with the action scenes, but overall was very serious. However, this film overall sort of felt like it didn't really have a mood. It seemed like it couldn't decide between being a really fun summer action film and being a more serious action film like Terminator 2. So overall, the main problem with this film is that some parts of the plot feel really convoluted and really forced, and its overall mood is sort of lacking. Some of the special effects feel really poor compared to others within the film. However, I did find myself getting emotionally invested in these characters, and I think that's mainly because the actors were really, really good in this film. I found it really hard to get into the story completely, and I think I was only emotionally invested because I found these actors so charismatic and good in the roles. I'm going to give this film a 6 out of 10, because I did enjoy the film and I did enjoy the overall plot, but too many points in the film felt too forced and too rushed and too convoluted for me to be really drawn into the film, and I felt too jarred. However, I was not angry with the film and I was not sad that I had seen it, unlike Terminator 3 and Terminator Salvation. It's not great and it's not awful and abysmal. Terminator Genisys is just okay. So that was another episode of Bloom and Falck Film Talk. If you like this video, then don't forget to like and subscribe for more movie-related videos and reviews. Do you have any opinions on Terminator Genisys that differ from my own? If so, leave them in the comments section below. I would love to read them. I was Barnaby Falck, and see you soon!